In this segment of week 1, we're going to be discussing the structure of the skin. As we did, structure for hairdressers is super important. Equally important, and maybe more, is the health of your skin and how to be able to know, how do I know what to choose to use on who to get the results that my client wants. So we're going to start very basic with the 3 basic layers of skin, starting out with the epidermis, which is the outermost layer. It's also known as scarf skin, cuticle, and the stratum layers, of which there are 5. The innermost layer, which is the subdermis, subcutis, or hypodermis, is at the beginning down here at the bottom. This is where skin cells begin with the elements carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and sulfur. Your body needs these elements to be ingested so that it can make healthy skin, because it's the skin that turns around and makes either a healthy hair or a healthy nail or not. The second layer is the dermis, and it's referred to as cutis, scarf skin, true skin, and corium. As we start, I always start at the very bottom and work my way up, because that's where growth is. You start from the bottom and you work your way up. So the beginning point down here in the subdermis, this is composed of what is called adipose tissue or subcutaneous tissue. I couldn't have a subcutaneous if I didn't have a subcutis. I couldn't have a hypodermis if I didn't have a dermis. These are under the underlying layer where your health begins. So as these skin cells begin to move forward, they form the second layer of skin, which is the dermis, okay? And that has 2 distinct layers. The papillary layer is where the papilla is located to manufacture your hair, your sweat, your oil glands, and stuff like that gets clogged and gets pimples in it, and things that we really want to learn how to keep clean and not have happen. Then I have my reticular layer. What I did is I changed the color of the ink so that you could see the distinct individual layers. Obviously your skin doesn't come in colors like that, but that's okay. When it moves up and it gets to this black line here, this is referred to as your basement membrane, also known as the transdermal barrier or the epidermal junction. There are times when a cosmetic company will tell you, oh, our product can penetrate the TDB, transdermal barrier, and you're going, what is TDB? Okay, and you don't want to sound like you don't know what it is, so you go, oh, that's good, maybe I should try it. Well, I'm telling you right now, nothing gets past this barrier unless you use electricity. This barrier right here is designed to keep you from evaporating the Mojave Desert or drowning in your bathtub. The word barrier means exactly what it says. If they barricade your exit on the freeway, you're not getting off unless you crash into it, flip over the top of it, but that would be kind of painful. Once, however, I merge these cells and I become in my living stratum. Okay, these are composed of desmosomes. Desmosomes are referred to as intercellular cohesion, and cohesion means to adhere to, stick to, like glue, and its job is that's what actually creates the barrier, are the desmosomes and that cement-like structure. And that's only 1 layer thick, by the way. As it moves up, it becomes the spinosum, okay? And this is the spiny layer, kind of like an egg crate, papillary egg crate, and because it's not just a smooth line, okay? Your skin is rippled, other you wouldn't have ridges for your fingerprints. Then it moves in and becomes the stratum granulosum. This is where keratinization begins, and by the way, pigment is formed in the stratum germinativum as well as the matrix to your nail. So the granulosum is where the skin cells really show their dehydration and the hardening factor as these desmosomes move up, because the desmosomes are all the way through. Okay, as the desmosomes move up, that's what holds you together. We have this saying, oh gee, you came unglued, means you fell apart. Well, your skin isn't going to fall apart. We have to unglue it so that we can get treatment in it, but it's kind of the same concept. Then it moves into the stratum lucidum. Okay, the stratum lucidum is a clear layer. So when you lay out in the sun to get tanned, that's where this comes in. My corneum is completely changed from desmosomes to what is referred to as hemidesmosomes, and this is like cement. It binds those cells together so nothing can come through. So now as an esthetician or skincare therapist, you must unglue, and it's caused desquamation, desquamatization, and we refer to that, as exfoliating. So now I have a couple of methods of exfoliation I can do. I can do my microderm, where I'm scratching it off and sucking that layer away, or I can use an alpha or beta hydroxy acid, where I burn and kill these little guys up here called Langerhans cells. Langerhans cells are in the epidermis with the T cells, and their main function is to protect the body from the invasion of bacteria. When you get a cut, it opens the skin and you can get an infection. You can get blood poisoning. The skin is there to protect you, so when you accidentally cut yourself, you want to clean it, put an antiseptic on it, Band-Aid. You want to keep the germs out of it. So our skin's number one line of defense is these Langerhans cells, T cells, that destroy the bacteria that lands on us, up to the point of even some cancer cells. The problem is we just either scratched them off with the microderm, or we burned and killed them with an alpha or beta hydroxy acid. So if we don't replace them, we've taken away our body's number one line of defense, protecting us from bacterial infections. When we're doing our hydrating, which is probably the most common thing that people are asking you about now that you're in beauty college, what shampoo and conditioner do you use or recommend? And you go, I haven't had that class yet. And now they're asking, what cleansers, what moisturizer do you recommend? My skin needs moisturizing. What do you recommend? And you go, I don't know, I haven't had that class yet. But the bottom line here is that almost all of the moisturizers have the same ingredients in them. Do a comparison. I'm sure that most of you have 2 or 3 different types of moisturizers in your bathroom. Turn them around and read the ingredients. The problem with reading ingredients is a lot of them are chemical words, and chemistry has a tendency to combine 3 or 4 words to make one word out of it, and you're looking at this word going, I don't even know how to begin to say this word. But you know what? It's as close as Siri. Okay? Google. No longer, that's why I want to hear any excuses, because no longer do you have to know how to spell the word. You don't have to look it up in a book, go to the library to find a chemical dictionary. All you have to do is ask your phone. It's just like that. You can see exactly what is in product, where it comes from, what its benefit is, and what are the contraindications. In other words, if I use this topical product on a client, what could I expect to go wrong? Sometimes a whole lot, because most of our skin issues are caused by allergies. If you're lactose intolerant, there's most skin hydrations and creams carry stearic acid, palmitic acid, and lactic acid, and almost every one of them come from cow milk. So if I'm lactose intolerant, it's very possible that my skin would be itchy, burny. It could even, not with those ingredients, turn red, but if I had another product in there, maybe like squalene, it can come from fish or it can come from olive, but if it's coming from fish and you have an allergy to seafood, then you could end up with red, flushed skin, because my mast cells up here are the ones that respond to an allergen. So if a mosquito bites you and you get the welt, it's because the mast cells released histamines. So when my body releases histamines, I need an antihistamine to stop this allergic reaction. So if I'm seeing an allergy with my client, or I suspect it, I need to rinse the product off as quickly as I can. Not wipe it off with a wet towel or cotton. You need to rinse it, like with an atomizer spray, and rinse it completely off. But remember, the skin's already absorbed it, so I can't get it completely off. So now I have to neutralize what my skin has absorbed, and I'm going to do that with an antihistamine, like Benadryl. I might mix, when I have an allergic reaction like that, I take the Benadryl cream and my cortisone cream, I mix them together because I have it in the eyes really bad. And so I put that on there, and then I use the blue LED light to help get around my eyes. If it's on my skin, then I'll use the red LED light for product penetration so that I can get that antihistamine down into my dermis. Okay, because this is where it's released from in here. So I need to get that antihistamine in there. In my dermis is also where my fibroblast cells are. And the job of the fibroblast cell is to stimulate the growth and production of collagen and elastin. And that's what keeps your skin firm and supple. In women, estrogen is the main stimulant for these fibroblast cells. But science has now proven that the red LED light also stimulates the fibroblast cells. When NASA was doing their sending the astronauts out, they sent up the LED lights, and they found they didn't lose their muscle mass, that they stayed a lot healthier. And so there's a lot of scientific evidence now that backs up the use of LED light therapy, so that you have a lot more options for clients who could be contraindicated to electricity. Repelling moisture is probably, or repelling anything, is probably the most common issue that a skincare therapist is going to have trying to get product into the skin. So knowing that your skin is positively charged, we talked about our pH scale, we talked about our basic chemistry, and how you have positive and negative ions running through your whole body. You are a battery operated appliance. Nobody has an extension cord. Okay, so my skin is positively charged. All of my hydrators are positively charged. When you try to put two positive magnets together, they repel each other. They push away. You can feel the force. If you try to put two negative magnets together, you feel that repelling force. But a positive and a negative, cohesive. They bind. So to get product into my skin, I need to create a negative environment. I have two ways that I can do that. One is with the steamer, with the ozone generator. The ozone generator liberates oxygen gas. We know that's negatively charged. My skin is positive. So as long as my skin is positive, it will absorb the ozone. As soon as my epidermis becomes negatively charged, the water will bead up and roll off of my face. So when I ask you, how long do you steam? Don't tell me 10 minutes. That's a state board answer, and that's okay. But that's not how long you steam. When you're trying to get a negative epidermis, you're going to steam as long as it takes the steam to bead up and roll off, because negatives repel each other. Okay. The other way is with my galvanic negative current. Now, the steamer is only going to get to my basement membrane. It's not going to get down into the dermis. But I can hydrate all 5 layers, which is more than I can do without that negative environment. My galvanic negative current, however, goes through the whole body. So unless my client's contraindicated to electricity, the best way for me to get negative epidermis, negative dermis, negative subdermis is with my galvanic negative current, which when we get into electricity, you'll study that. When you get into Cosmo 38, you have a lot of high frequency galvanic classes on how to do that. When you get in 38B and C, that's continuing on to help you get ready for the salon, so that by the time you get to 38B and C, you should have a pretty good understanding of the electrical components that we use, how the skin responds, is crucial. Your sensory receptors pick up the electrical impulses. Everything runs on electricity. The rainbow, the colors in our rainbow have light distance. And as your sensory receptors pick that up, the message goes to the brain. It's electrical impulses that go to the brain. The brain identifies that, sends it back so that the body can respond in kind. So we need to make sure that when you get your electricity class and you have your electrical, galvanic and high frequency classes, that if you don't understand something, please stop and ask questions. It's so important that you have an understanding. What's going to happen is when you're hearing this for the first time, you're going to go, oh my God, I'm never going to learn this. I am so far over my head, I have no idea what you're even talking about. Well, it's like learning a new language, because you are. Nobody says, please pass the NaCl. We say, can I have the salt, please? Okay, unless you grew up in a house like I did with a chemistry dad and a chemistry brother, then it was, pass the NaCl, give me some more H2O. So I kind of grew up with that, but most people don't. So even if you don't speak English as a first language, if I were speaking in your language, you wouldn't understand the chemical terminology, the medical terminology, or the electrical terminology. So technically, you are learning a new language. You're learning the language of chemistry in this class, and you're learning your anatomy and your physiology, medical words and such. And yes, it can be very intimidating, but you're going to get it. Okay, the more you hear it, remember it takes 6 times before the brain gets a wrinkle in it, before you can bring it to recall. Oh yeah, I remember she said that. Now I can, and as I build and build and build through my classes, by the time I'm done, you're going to be fine. You're going to be able to understand it, and one day you're going to go, oh my God, I can't believe I understood what you just said. And you get so excited. But that's a good thing. Once I've created my negative environment, I can apply my moisturizer, which is positive, and then I take my galvanic positive and I push it into the skin. It's my skin, positive, pushing it through. And now I can go through this transdermal barrier, and now my product has gotten into the dermis where it can actually be of benefit to this client. This is a lot. It's all in your handout. You can go back and reread. You can redo the video. You can reread. But as you're doing this, if a question pops up in your mind, write the question down so that you can remember to ask me, text me, email me, however you need to get a hold of me. I will always be there to answer your questions. There's nothing I like better than talking, in case you hadn't noticed that by now. And I really enjoy the interaction with each one of you, so I'm really looking forward to our time together. Thank you very much.